Today we're going to talk about why f4 lenses are actually pretty awesome. Let's get into it. It's Tutorial Tuesday. Welcome back to Tutorial Tuesday, where each and every Tuesday we bring you a brand new fresh photography tutorial. Now this isn't so much of a tutorial as much as it is I want to talk to you about f4 lenses, because I think sometimes they get a little bit of a bad rap compared to f2.8 lenses, which are regarded as the pro lenses, which is fair enough, and they are very, very lovely. And I have a 24-70 f2.8, and in fact I'm shooting on it right now, and I love that lens, but f4 lenses have a really special place as well. And f4 lenses actually have a huge amount to offer, and outside of specific situations, I actually think shooting on an f4 lens usually makes just as much sense, if not sometimes a little bit more sense than an f2.8 lens. Now let's talk about why exactly that is. There's a few aspects to this overall. f4 does not mean that you can't get a blurred background. It doesn't mean that you can't get some beautiful bokeh in your shot. It just means that you're not going to have as much of a wide open aperture as f2.8. There are obviously downsides to that. You're not going to be letting in as much light, and that depth of field isn't going to be as shallow. But let's say you use a 24-70, let's say you use a 70-200. The more you zoom, the more lens compression you're going to be introducing, the more of a blurred background you're going to have, the more bokeh you'll have, and often it'll be very nice and smooth while retaining an enormous amount of detail on your subject. When I shoot at f4 with something like a 24-70, if I zoom to 70mm, I can still take a really nice portrait. If I use a 70-200 f4, I can still definitely get a very nice portrait with a lens like that. I'm going to get lots of detail on my subject's face, but I'm going to get still a nice blurred background. They can be a little bit more forgiving when it comes to that depth of field. When I've used a very shallow depth of field in the past, I have missed the focus, or I have had one eye in focus, one eye slightly out, because if the head is tilted slightly, you know, the focal plane is so shallow that one eye is just out of focus, and that's not ideal. Whereas at f4, you're going to make sure you get that in focus. Again, not ideal for every kind of shot, but a lot of stuff will work really well at f4, even stopped down to f5.6. When I've spoken to fashion photographers in the past, they will often stop down to f4, f5.6, or even further, just to make sure they're getting nice, crisp detail and a good focus on all of the different items. If you're shooting makeup, you don't want a really, really shallow depth of field where just the front part is in focus and then it starts to drop off even as you go back with the hair and stuff like that. You want to make sure you've got a nice, sharp focus across the whole face, across all the clothes, all that kind of stuff. This is also true when it comes to video. I will often shoot at f4 for talking headshots like this, or if I'm doing an interview with someone, I'll shoot at f4 because it's just a little bit more forgiving than f2.8. It just allows me a little bit more room for error with the focal plane, with that depth of field. Now, of course, sometimes you want to have that cinematic shot with a shallow depth of field, but you can still kind of achieve that by zooming in. If you zoom to 70mm on a 24-70, which is what I'm shooting on right now, even at f4, you're gonna get a nice out of focus background, some nice smooth bokeh. And there's another really big advantage to f4 lenses over f2.8 lenses, and that's the price. f4 lenses typically are a lot less expensive. They're also generally a lot lighter, maybe even smaller as well. So not only are they less heavy in your bag, less heavy in your hands, they're also less heavy on your wallet. Now that's not to say that f2.8 lenses don't have their place. I love my f2.8 24-70. I use it every single day, but I could see myself having a slightly cheaper, slightly smaller, slightly lighter f4 lens, and then a prime lens for when I want to use that shallow depth of field. Even something like a 50mm f1.8, a really cheap nifty 50, or an f1.4 50mm, or an 85. I'm gonna get a lot of use out of that, and for those times when I specifically want the shallow depth of field, I would just look to my prime lens. I'm probably gonna get a nicer image doing that than I would from my 24-70 f2.8. So I guess ultimately what I'm saying is, yes, f2.8 lenses are fantastic, and they definitely serve a great purpose. But I have, and you can, do professional work with f4 lenses. They're not just enthusiast lenses. You can definitely do professional level photography and videography with f4 lenses, and a lot of the time, it's actually a little bit easier to do it with those as well. Because of the size, because of the weight, because of the price, you can have more lenses available to you. You might find there's more versatility in something like a 24-105 f4 lens and then a nice fast aperture prime lens than in just a more expensive 24-70 f2.8 lens. I know I've certainly used the 24-105 f4 countless times for all kinds of stuff, and then switch to a prime lens for something like a headshot or a portrait or whatever it might be that you want to go for. What do you think? Are you more interested in an f4 lens, something that's a little bit lighter on the wallet, in the hands, in the bag, and then a prime lens? Are you more interested in an f2.8 lens? Do you have other reasons that we've not talked about for either one? I'd love to hear your opinions down in the comments. There's links to all kinds of different lenses down in the description as well, lenses for a lot of these different photos that we'll be showing through the video. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. There's new content all the time. I'll see you in the next video, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.